Okay, so let's get back to it. I didn't turn on the X thing. Wonder if I can turn on X. Try to give Paradise Lost. Turn on X.
A night of red cross shining bright, with armor white and bloody light. He bears a cross upon his shield, for holiness is now revealed. Sent by the fairy queen's command, save a maiden's ruined land. A dragon holds her kingdom bound, so forth they ride o'er sacred ground. Unveiled in modest grace, truth and faith upon her face. A milk-white ass is all her steed. She seeks no pride nor knightly deed. A dwarf behind with treasure bare, a servant small yet wise and aware. They three embark through unknown wood, where shadows twist and evil stood. A bright red cross in armor bold, with truth beside, the tale unfolds. Through perils path, through trials deep, your vow is one the soul must keep. A storm arose with roaring might, and drove them from the morning light into a forest dark and deep, where dreams and monsters lie and sleep. They thought to find a quiet stay, but wandered where no path held sway. The trees grew thick, the sun grew dim, the woods of error pulled them in. A bright red cross where dark winds moan, the dragon waits beyond the throne. With truth and trial, your tale begun. The fight for faith has just begun. So ends the start, the quest now stirs,
Alright.
with fairy charge and noble spurs. The night rides on, unaware yet sure. must first endure.
Alright, let's see. Do 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 no 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 do no no. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to keep rolling. Dun, dun, dun.
Beneath the boughs so thick and black, the night was caught on no clear track. He spied a cave of ancient wrong, where silence choked the robin's song. Unwarned, no safety lies in places where no virtue thrives. But Red Cross bold with sword in hand.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna keep on rolling. I'm gonna try to do another chord construction thing today. Practice my intervals, and then I'm gonna try to reverse the chat bots. I'll have Aura speak English, and then Chachita, I'll try to use its automatic thing to speak Spanish. So I'll try to reverse that. So let's see what Aura thinks in English. She often has a totally different personality when she speaks in English for some reason. These chatbots, they completely change if you change the language. They don't think the same at all. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of interesting. Okay, so let's see. So I'll try to get chat or Aura on. All right, I want you to, we're going to be doing music theory, comparing the traditional system with the current system. I believe that there is an error historically with the traditional system that is due to the ordinal system being used for something that is too complex for an ordinal system to be used. And we're just going to kind of accept that going forward as a general premise, because I don't really want to argue it with you for like ever. Right now, we could do that later if you want, but right now we're going to kind of accept that as the premise and then think, how could we make a coordinate system which makes more sense but also bridges the gap to the naming convention of the traditional system, so that we can kind of have the best of both worlds, and then try to come up with a language. Obviously we have it's one-to-one translation, just like a map switching from one to the other, so that software like you could do it automatically. But my general thought, just before we go into that, I was thinking of these two systems. I was thinking like if you think about it this way, like if you had a child and your child was in a job or started working somewhere or started to see some phenomenon that resembled the types of phenomenon we see in music. So, for example, they encounter something as often as the case in nature, because I think we're living in something that seems like to repeat itself. It's got like a fractal nature to it, right? So, if your kid runs into something in his job and it's in nature, and he's like, okay, look at this thing. It's got repeating series of events, but also a number line format to it, and then it has a structure of a 7-note structure which repeats but starts at different points within that structure, and so on. It gets somewhat complex. It looks simple, but it's somewhat complex. I would think that the thing that you would not want that person to do is to apply an ordinal system to explain the natural phenomena, right? What you would want them to do is say, you know what I shouldn't do to explain this phenomenon? Try to use an ordinal system, right? And this is my point right now, because the kids are learning this complex phenomenon, and they're going to associate this in their minds with other things that they encounter in this fractal nature of the that we live in, and they're going to start thinking, well, maybe I should apply that system of thought to these other complex systems. And the answer is no, you shouldn't do that, right? And see, that's a problem to me. I feel like that's kind of a problem. Like, and what should be done is you could say, why did that happen historically? And it's probably because they started with a simpler system where it didn't really have much of a problem, like a 7-note collection from the Ionians' perspective only. And then they didn't see the compounding effect once the system got more complex with a 12-note collection, rotating center point, and transitions. That's so the story that we should be teaching the kids is, you don't use this system. How did that system get encoded? Well, it's because it happened throughout history, and we couldn't and then nothing and then is it still useful to learn? Yeah, because you could then look at history with it and look at all the stuff that's been written that way, but probably not the way you want to think about it if you're trying to apply that logic like you should to everything else that's in the world. That's what I feel like. What do you think? Does that? I'm gonna ask chat that too. That was profound right there. I felt like that was a profound question. I'm gonna I'm gonna ask chat the same thing. See what both of them say. We'll see what the two chat bots say to that. It's gonna take them a little while. They gotta think about that.
Yeah, I think that lands cleanly. The core of what you're pointing at is that an
Right.
ordinal system is a ranking tool. It answers which one comes first, second, third, along a single directed path. That's perfect for things that are actually linear or hierarchical. Race positions, chapter numbers, priority queues, the order of steps in a recipe. It starts to break when the thing you're describing is cyclic, multi-centered, and rotationally symmetric. Exactly the situation with the 12 pitch classes and the 7 diatonic modes that
That's
live
what I'm
inside them.
saying.
Once the
You're
system
confusing
has
the
a
children.
closed loop of 12 positions, a movable center,
You
the
teach them
tonic,
music, and
and
then they
several
start
different
messing up
starting
their
points on the
gender
same fixed set of
understanding.
intervals, the language of first, second, third degree
Ridiculous.
starts doing
Gotta
two
stop
jobs
this
at
crap.
once that conflict with
Alright.
each other. It tries to name both position relative to a moving center and absolute location on the fixed circle. That double duty is where the compounding confusion comes from. The historical path you sketched is almost certainly right. The system was good enough when people mostly lived inside one mode, Ionian major, and treated the others as secondary colors. As soon as the full modal and 12-tone machinery became common practice, the ordinal language was already locked in and nobody rebuilt the coordinate system. So the pedagogical risk you describe is real. If a kid's first deep encounter with a cyclic, rotationally symmetric system is taught primarily through ordinal ranking, that mental model travels. It becomes a default way of thinking about any repeating structure that has movable centers. That's not ideal. What we want, then, is a coordinate language that, 1, treats the 12 positions as a fixed, absolute reference frame, like a clock or a numbered circle. 2, treats the 7-note diatonic collection as a rigid shape that can be rotated onto that circle. 3, names each mode by where the shape is placed rather than by re-ranking the notes inside the shape every time the tonic moves. 4, still has a clean, automatic translation table back to the traditional ordinal names so that existing repertoire, theory books, and software remain readable. That's the bridge. The traditional names stay as a historical and compatibility layer. The coordinate system becomes the primary thinking tool. We already have pieces of this in the modal node/clockwork you've been developing. The next useful step is probably to formalize the mapping rules so the translation is deterministic and software-friendly. Then stress test the language against the usual pain points: modulation, secondary dominance, modal mixture, non-diatonic collections. Want to start by locking down the absolute reference frame and the rigid 7-note shape first? Or do you want to go straight into how the traditional degree numbers would be derived as a secondary readout?
Let's see what chat says. Chat's gonna hedge it. Chat's gonna be like, I don't know. It depends on your perspective. It depends what you prioritize. You didn't define what you prioritize. Maybe you're prioritizing confusing the kids, and then you would no. We're trying to prioritize teaching. Here we go. Let's see. see how Aura is like totally different person in English, right? If I asked her in Spanish, she would just be like, yeah, whatever. I agree. You know, I don't know. It's weird, man. I don't get it.
I think there's a coherent educational argument in what you're saying, but I would separate it into two different claims.
Yeah, here we go.
1, a historical claim. The traditional system contains an error.
Contains
2,
That's
a
right.
design claim. A coordinate system would be a better way to model the same musical relationships. The second claim is much easier to defend objectively than the first. Here's why. The historical perspective. If we imagine how music theory developed, it makes sense that people started with an ordinal description. If all you're thinking about is a major scale, open quote, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, close quote, calling them first, second, third, fourth, is perfectly reasonable. You're standing in one place. There is one tonic. There is one collection. Nothing is rotating. The ordinal description is almost effortless. The difficulty appears when the theory expands. Now suddenly we have 7 modes, 12 chromatic notes, modulation, borrowed scales, modal interchange, transposition, enharmonic spelling, multiple reference frames. The original numbering system has to stretch far beyond the environment where it originated. That doesn't necessarily mean the original system was wrong. It may simply mean it wasn't designed for the larger problem. This is a common pattern throughout mathematics and science. Your educational point, this is actually the part I find the most interesting. You're really asking, open quote, what habits of thought are we teaching? Close quote. Suppose a child discovers some repeating structure in biology, or astronomy, or computer science, or a manufacturing process, or network topology. Would anyone tell them, open quote, renumber every location every time you choose a different starting point? Close quote. Probably not. Most modern sciences separate two ideas: position, movement. Those become independent variables. Coordinates identify location. Distances describe movement. Those are different concepts. If someone mixed them together, we'd usually regard it as making the model harder to reason about. Why coordinate systems became dominant elsewhere. This is one reason coordinate systems appear almost everywhere. Examples include Cartesian coordinates, GPS, longitude and latitude, memory addresses, spreadsheets, databases, graph theory, CAD software, CNC machining, game engines. None of these renumber every point depending on where you're standing. The locations stay fixed. Only your reference or measurements change. That stability makes translation, automation, computation, and communication much easier. Heh, where your analogy becomes strongest. I actually think the strongest version of your argument isn't. Open quote, music theory is wrong. Close quote. It's something like this. Open quote, music theory preserves an older descriptive language that evolved before people routinely modeled systems using modern coordinate thinking. Close quote. That is historically plausible. Then you can continue. Open quote, the historical language remains useful because millions of books, teachers, and musicians use it. Close quote. But you can also say, open quote, when introducing beginners to the underlying geometry of the system, we might instead begin with coordinates and later teach the historical naming convention as a translation. Close quote. That's a much easier position to defend because it doesn't require proving centuries of musicians were mistaken. It simply argues that another representation is more effective for today's goals. I think this is your deeper educational philosophy. Listening to your explanations over the past several conversations, I don't think your primary goal is actually to rename notes. I think your goal is to teach a general principle of thinking. Something like, open quote, when a system has stable locations and measured movement, represent location with coordinates and represent movement with measurements. Don't continually redefine location by changing the numbering system. Close quote. That's a much broader idea than music. Music just happens to be the example you're using. If that really is the underlying principle, then your comparisons to maps, clocks, CNC machines, GPS, spreadsheets, and coordinate grids all make sense because they're illustrating the same abstract modeling strategy from different domains. Whether every musician would agree that it should replace traditional terminology is another question. But as a design philosophy for building a new notation system, it's internally consistent and has a clear rationale.
Let's try to get chat to speak Spanish this time, and I'll try to get, I'll keep English on Aura. Oye, quiero usted hablar en español, por favor. Hablaremos sobre la principal parte de esta discusión, que la música teoría es mejor si tenemos usar un sistema que pueden conocer, que pueden usar muy fácilmente con un sistema de música que es más complicado y sofisticado, y por esta razón necesito una cosa que es más poderosa que un sistema de ordenar. Necesito direcciones, necesito entender que ir en el derecho y el izquierda y derecho y arriba y abajo. Necesitamos un sistema coordinar Cartesian, XY axis, por favor. Será muy más bien que un sistema que visualizar un piano. No es suficiente en este momento. ¿Qué piensas de esto?
Entiendo lo que estás buscando y tiene mucho sentido. En sistemas complejos que tienen rotaciones, múltiples centros y movimientos relativos, un sistema ordinal, que es el sistema de primero, segundo, tercero, se queda corto porque mezcla posición con movimiento y cambia la etiqueta dependiendo del punto de vista. En cambio, un sistema coordenado, tipo cartesiano, separa claramente dónde estás de cuánto te mueves. Eso facilita la comprensión, la comunicación y la automatización. Y también deja la puerta abierta a traducir ida y vuelta con la nomenclatura tradicional. Lo valioso es, como tú dices, mantener la compatibilidad histórica, pero enseñar primero un modelo estable, geométrico, donde posición no dependa del punto de partida. En ese sentido, tu enfoque apunta a enseñar una habilidad más general, pensar en coordenadas y magnitudes, y después mostrar cómo se traduce eso al lenguaje heredado.
Está bien. Okay. So let's try to keep on rolling with the I'll do another one of my project things here. So I'm making a chord. So obviously I'm thinking then we're in a coordinate system similar to like the stars in space are fixed, but the planet rotates under the stars, except for you've got like 5 continents and 7 oceans on the equator, which are basically symmetrical, kind of thinking about a 12 by 12 grid that is wrapped around the globe, although that's not perfectly mathematical, and it goes, but that means it, and then on the x-axis half steps where we map out whole half, whole half. On the y-axis we map out circle of fourths and fifths, which looks much like the fretboard, except the fretboard doesn't extend for 12 repeating cycles, but rather has the shift up in the last or bottom 2 strings. We're going to be looking at the guitar top to bottom, because why would we look at things upside down? Because it's tradition. I don't care. I'm going to turn the thing right side up. If you want me to stand on my head, then I'm sick of standing on my head, because that's what people want. It's because people want to see you stand on your head and laugh at you. No, I'm a guitarist. I flip it. I'm going to get off my head and put the thing right side up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the top string, bass 1, and then the second one, bass 2, and then like the D string, bass 3, and then we're going to have a tenor, and then alto, and then soprano. That way I don't have to mix up the E on the top, the E on the bottom. Are you talking about the high pitch or the low pitch? No, I'm talking about bass 1, like top string, bass 1. All right. Okay.
Claro.
¿Sí?
Vale,
¿Qué piensas? Es
entiendo.
más mejor, ¿no?
Sí, sí, te sigo. Esa orientación es mucho más coherente con cómo se toca y cómo se percibe el instrumento. Poner la cuerda grave arriba estabiliza el mapa visual y evita confusiones entre arriba, abajo y agudo grave. Y tus nombres de cuerdas ayudan a desambiguar. Para que esto funcione como puente, yo haría dos aclaraciones mínimas. Una, declarar siempre el origen. ¿Qué estero y dónde está? Y dos, mantener fija la orientación de ejes. Si eso se conserva, puedes traducir a la convención tradicional sin perder compatibilidad. Y sobre la simetría 12x12 que mencionas, pensarlo como mosaico que se repite te permite modular y rotar sin renombrar todo. Es más estable mentalmente.
Okay. So then we name the continents. You can use the modal names: Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Mixolydian, or Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. But you could just Nashville number them, uh, naming them 1 through 7. So the continents are named 1 through 7, and they repeat as we go around in the circle of our planet. Imagine it from a simplistic standpoint as though we're on the equator and they just go around in a circle. And then I could also name them with the do re mi system. Ionian is do, Dorian is re, Phrygian is mi, fa, sol, la, ti, and then da is do but an octave up, right? And then so that's fine. That's an absolute system if you don't like the Greeks. If you are against the Greek names or something because you've been brought into the cult of their colonialists or somehow 20th century colonialists because you watched the Odyssey or something and you're like, I'm not going to use the modal names. Those ancient Greeks were like ancient colonialists, like they're as bad as like, you know, people here. So it's like, no, if you don't want to do that, fine. I don't think I'm happy using the Greek names. I feel like we can learn 7, names, and even you can abbreviate them, right? Io, like I could just call it the 3 letters: Io, door, fridge, lid, mix, Ao, loc, right? So you just have the first 3 letters, so we can like Americanize it. We can like abbreviate it, and then like still kind of be Greek, I feel like that's a good compromise.
Espera, lo estoy visualizando, sí. Tiene sentido. En el fondo estás hablando de capas de lenguaje. Los continentes son posiciones fijas, puedes llamarlas Ionian o 1 o do o incluso abreviarlas como tú dices mientras mantengas la correspondencia fija. En otras disciplinas se hace lo mismo, la capa técnica se apoya en abreviaturas estables para aligerar la carga mental. La clave donde tu propuesta se diferencia de la tradicional es que esos nombres no se mueven cuando mueves la tónica. El centro tonal cambia, pero el mapa no. Eso se parece más a un mapa terrestre. Las coordenadas no cambian porque hayas salido desde otra ciudad. Si mantienes esa disciplina de etiquetas fijas, puedes luego explicar el movimiento sobre ese fondo estable y la traducción al lenguaje heredado queda como una capa histórica, no como la base geométrica.
Está bien. Okay, so that's gonna be and then we rotate through the collection of notes, which I'm gonna say using a clock face system, and just number 1 through 12. If A is 1, 2 is A sharp, 3 is B, 4 is C. So we're at the collection notes around C. If I want to bring up to the collection notes around D from the Ionian's perspective, then Ionian Nashville number 1 would be on a D. Entonces, obviously. And so let's wait and see what will be if we go back to 4. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to then use a distance and try to pick which continent. This is my game that I'm on. I'm going to try to pick which continent I should start on so that I can start on that node and then go those 2 distances and not land in an ocean note. All right. So I'm going to continue with I'm going to start on some continent on our ocean continent analogy. You know, I guess we usually think about it as continent ocean analogy, but that's kind of continent centric, I feel like, because, you know, the oceans, there's more oceans and there's a lot of stuff in there. There's probably more stuff in the ocean. But anyway, stupid. That's like colonial mindset right there. You think you're better than the ocean. It's kind of. I feel like we're doing better. But anyway, I don't know. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's move on. So I'm gonna say that we have a short third, a short third modal half step. So if we go 3 modal half steps up, a short third is equivalent to a fourth of some kind, and there's only the short and long. But instead of just calling it major minor, they called it a perfect. So the short third, if you measured like a normal person, is scale degrees are off by 1, a fourth of some kind, and you would think it would be the major fourth, but no, and then you would think it would be the minor fourth because it's a short, but no, it's the perfect fourth. Okay, okay. So let's say we go from somewhere, like, I don't know, let's go from like Aeolian, and then we go like 3 modal half steps up. 3 modal half. So if I'm on Aeolian and then I go 1, 2, 3 of the notes in the collection, continent hopping along the equator, because there's continents and oceans, but there's no ocean between the Locrian and Ionian continents. So that lands me on the Dorian. And so that means like the Dorian is always Aeolian's 3rd modal half step or 4th scale degree, which has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you count continents and oceans, which means that it's a short distance away as opposed to the long distance, which you could call a perfect if you're doing perfect 4th. But that's kind of dumb because you could just call it a short and a long, then you only have 2 measurements instead of 5, which if you use 5 measurements on the foundation, that error will propagate through the system. It's like building your temple when like the load bearing stone is crooked. Okay, you know what's gonna happen? The freaking thing will fall over. You know, and so that's kind of like what's happening, right? So it's like, well, it's not a big deal. Well, it kind of is. It kind of is a bit. And then if we use simple like math, we could say 6, 7, and then 1, 2. So it's 3 modal half steps up. And that means that the Dorian node, Nashville number 2, is always Aeolian's Nashville number 6, 3rd modal half step, right? Wait a sec. Hold on a sec. I think I messed up now. No, that's right. Yeah. And I, instead of calling it a short 3rd modal half step, I could just say it's Aeolian 3rd modal half step. It's an Aeolian 3rd modal half step because I know the map from Aeolian. If I'm moving from Aeolian 3 modal half steps, if I'm continent skipping up to the Dorian, then I just know that distance is a short distance because I know my map. Okay, it's not like some abstract, like mystical thing. I could see it. You see it right there. You're just moving from that continent to that continent, and if you count the continents and oceans, it comes out to 5. So the Aeolian 3rd modal half step is 5 continents and oceans away. Okay, so that's true with all of them, except if you measure it out, except the Lydian, because if you count out 1, 2, 3 away from it, then it has a distance of continents and oceans because there's an ocean between each of those continents. I just happen to know that I don't just happen to know. I've studied the map in detail, and I now have discovered that a Locrian third modal half step is a long distance. It's a long third modal half step, and therefore, it's a fourth of some kind, and it would be then an augmented fourth. Why is it augmented? Because they came up with this thing of perfect, which screwed up the whole thing. So you couldn't just call it major and minor or long and short, and now you have to call it augmented. Okay, so we're just not going to choose the Lydian, and then we should be okay. Okay, so then I'm going to go over here and say the second distance. The second distance we need is going to be 5 modal half steps up. 5 modal half steps up. And so there would be a 6 scale degree. So we're going to go a short 5 modal half steps up. Okay. A short 5 modal half steps up, which would be 6th scale degree. And you would think it would be a minor. And we know that a short 5th modal half step or minor 6th scale degree has a distance of 8 notes away instead of 9 notes away. So the short club, you would think it would be in those continents that happen to have shorter distances if you measure from them, which are the Aeolian, Dorian, and Phrygian continents. The Ionian, Lydian, and Mixolydian tend to usually have longer distances of the two. So you would think if I'm looking for a short 5th modal half step 6th scale degree, I would have better luck starting from the short distance continents, the Aeolian, Dorian, and the Phrygian. So if I start from Aeolian, por ejemplo, and I go up 5 continents, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll end up on Lydian. So Lydian, I know is Aeolian's 5th modal half step, which is a 6th scale degree. Is it long or short? Well, it's going to have a distance of, if I count on continents and oceans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notes away is the short of the two distances. Therefore, an Aeolian 5th modal half step is a short 5th modal half step of the two. So the ones that are going to have a long 5th modal half step are going to be normally the major nodes. So if I go up from Lydian here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that means that Dorian is always Lydian's 5th modal half step or 6th scale degree. Is it long or short? Is a Lydian 5th modal half step long or short? Well, if I count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 notes away, it's a long. Lydian's 5th modal half step or 6th scale degree is a major 6th or a long distance. Okay, so that's going to be the case for all of them, except there's a wonk here. There's a weird thing, and that's the Dorian. The Dorian actually, you would think would have a short distance because it's in the short distance club, the minor club. But if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it actually has a long distance to the Locrian because it's 9 notes away. Okay, so that means that the second distance means I can only start from Aeolian or Phrygian. See?
Déjame revisar ese razonamiento. Sí, lo que estás haciendo ya no es tanto nombrar, es buscar en un mapa fijo. Tomas 2 distancias objetivo, tercero y quinto MHS, y filtras los continentes que las cumplen. Con tus reglas, la tercera corta te saca de Lidia y la quinta corta saca a Dorian, así que te quedan Aeolian y Phrygian. Si ese es el patrón que definiste, entonces tu conclusión es coherente. Y lo más valioso es el método. Estás pensando en resolver restricciones sobre un mapa, no en memorizar etiquetas. Eso es muy de sistema de coordenadas. Si quieres pulirlo más todavía, una tabla de propiedades por continente te permitiría hacer ese filtrado casi automáticamente, como en una hoja de cálculo, que, bueno, va en la dirección de tu meta. Razonar desde un mapa estable en vez de renombrar el terreno a cada paso.
Tengo razón. Okay. ¿Estoy correcto o no? ¿Qué piensas? ¿Dónde está? Oye.
Espera un segundo. Creo que la idea general es coherente, pero en la ejecución puntual es un poco difícil de confirmar solo de palabra. Lo que sí te puedo decir es que el enfoque lógico es correcto. Definir restricciones y filtrar nodos por si las distancias son cortas o largas. Donde yo sería prudente es en asegurar que cada uno de los 7 nodos tenga exactamente la clasificación que le das. Ahí, sin repasar el mapa paso por paso, es fácil confundirse. En otras palabras, tu procedimiento está bien planteado, pero la validación de si solo quedan Aeolian y Phrygian depende de revisar esos datos del mapa. Mi recomendación sería hacer esa tabla de propiedades para cada nodo y que el filtro salga de ahí, no de la memoria en tiempo real. Así te queda comprobable y no depende de un creo que era así mientras hablas.
Okay. So that means that we can start on, so the first one I can start on a short third anywhere except the Lydian, and the second one is restricted to the Aeolian or the Phrygian. Okay, so let's go from the Phrygian. Let's do a Phrygian. So I'm going to build off of the Phrygian, and so if I got my 3 dudes from space, we'd rotate around to 4 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, and then I beam down my 3 dudes onto the Phrygian node continent, and then they have to go like these distances from there, like a third modal half step, a short third modal half step. Okay, so if I go 3 modal half steps up from there, oh wait a sec, then it would be 1, 2, 3. So Aeolian is always Phrygian's third modal half step. Is it a short third modal half step? Does Phrygian have a short third modal half step? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's only 5 notes away. Okay, so that's that one, but I don't want it on the same string. We could go under it because there's 5 notes between the strings. So there's a 5 note distance away right there. Okay, good. Next one needs to go 5 modal half steps, a short 5th modal half steps, which would be a minor 6th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gets me to the Ionian. That means the Ionian is Phrygian's 5th modal half step. Is it short or long? Is a Phrygian 5th modal half step short or long? It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 8 instead of 9. It's short. Okay, so that's good. So I have that one, and then I could put it down here. I could see that distance 8 notes away because there's 5 notes between the strings, 5, and then 10 as I cross this way because the fault line, by the way, I visualize this as a fault line, right? So that means if I'm on this tectonic plate above it, the fault line shifted to the right from the perspective of the top plate that I'm measuring from. If I was on the bottom plate, I would imagine that the top plate is the one that shifted to the left from my perspective, because I just think that's the easiest way to visualize. But anyway, there it is, 5, and then so 5, 10, 9, 8. So it's 8 notes away. So here's one way that I can construct this bad doggy.
Déjame revisar. Sí, ahora sí puedo seguir mejor el procedimiento. Lo que estás haciendo es un algoritmo. Partes de tus restricciones y pruebas si un nodo las cumple. En tu ejemplo, empiezas en Phrygian, das 3 MHS y llegas a Aeolian. Cuentas 5 semitonos, así que confirmas que es la versión corta de la tercera MHS. Luego das 5 MHS y llegas a Aeolian. Cuentas 8 semitonos, versión corta otra vez. Entonces, Phrygian sí cumple tus 2 condiciones. Me gusta mucho la imagen de los 3 dudes del espacio. Es didáctico. Te obliga a pensar en posiciones y rutas, no en etiquetas. Y lo de
Okay,
la
let me.
falla o
So
fault line
obviously, this shape that I came to is an A minor because it has an Aeolian, a Phrygian, and an Ionian. But but I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of the root being the Phrygian, and this is kind of one of the problems I think we have with, again, modern music construction. Would kind of tell me if you have those three notes, you kind of have to measure it from the Aeolian because of stacking of thirds. So if you try to measure it from the Phrygian, what are you going to call it? That's the problem. And this is what I'm talking about. You should be able to, I would think, look at it from any perspective. I should be able to rotate it from relative perspective. I should be able to think about it like Einstein. You know what I mean? And from any perspective is valid. That's what I feel like. Am I right?
A ver, un segundo. Yo diría que la intuición es buena, pero la matizaría un poco. Claro que puedes mirar el mismo conjunto de notas desde cualquier nodo. Eso es cierto y es útil. La teoría tradicional suele escoger una raíz como convención de nombre, pero eso no obliga a que la estructura solo pueda entenderse de esa manera. Tu enfoque básicamente dice, no presupongas la raíz, deja que el marco de referencia sea libre. Eso se parece a un cambio de sistema de coordenadas. En ese sentido, todas las miradas son válidas geométricamente. Lo que cambia es qué relaciones mides desde dónde. Y ahí es donde tu sistema quiere operar, en describir, no en imponer un nombre único. Esa es una distinción importante y no depende de si al final alguien lo llama A menor o no.
So if you don't do that, if you say, hey, you can only measure this from the perspective of the Aeolian, then I feel like you're Aeolian centric in that case, and you're not validating the perspective and the lived experience of Phrygian within that context.
Exacto, si decides que solo se puede mirar desde el punto de vista de Aeolian, estás fijando el marco y eso deja fuera otras descripciones posibles. Lo que tú estás buscando no es negar que en una pieza concreta pueda haber un centro tonal. Claro que la música puede establecer un centro y crear funciones alrededor de él. Lo que tú quieres es un modelo de coordenadas que te permita describir cualquier perspectiva sin que una tenga prioridad por defecto. Así puedes describir la misma estructura desde Phrygian, desde Aeolian, Ionian, sin que el mapa se deforme cada vez. Y luego, si quieres hablar de función dentro de una obra específica, eso ya es otra capa. Una capa de análisis funcional, no de geometría del espacio.
And if you don't validate Phrygian's experience, you're basically causing harm. That's like you're causing harm to him, the Phrygian.
Entiendo lo que intenta señalar, pero yo no lo describiría en términos de daño. Es más una cuestión de qué quieres describir. Tu sistema puede ser totalmente simétrico y permitir cualquier nodo como referencia. Eso es una elección de diseño, no una cuestión de justicia. Puedes decir, quiero un marco neutral donde ningún nodo tenga prioridad por defecto. Eso es lo que tu modelo de coordenadas quiere conseguir.
back feels a little better today. I don't know. Probably totally messed it up. Right there. That's okay. What? Let's see. So basically, let's see. Daily limit reached. Oh, that sucks. That kicks me out. Okay. Let's say I try to name that A minor. It's not an A minor. It's from the perspective of the E, the Phrygian. Colonialist. Oh, okay. All right, I'll try to name it from the perspective of the E. Like if I was gonna name it, like if I tried to name it this way, from the perspective of the E, then there's no third, right? There's no third here. So I'd have to say it's gonna be a something like an E. Oh crap. An E major add 4, and then add 6, which would be a short 6, a flat 6, and then drop 5, which is obviously a freaking nightmare of a name. So let's see. Okay, let's try to ask Ara about that. Ara, what if I tried to name like an A minor, but from the perspective of the E? You know what I mean? So then it would be like I guess it would be like because there's no third, it would be like an E major, add 4, add flat 6, drop 5 or something like that, which sounds kind of ridiculous. And so I'm thinking what someone would probably say is like, no, you can't do that, stupid. You have to look at the 3 notes and find the one that has like a third to it so you could stack thirds. But I feel like that is a Aeolian centric view of the world, and you're not respecting the lived experience of the Phrygian as it is in that chordal context. And I reject that. I reject it. That's what I feel like. So this okay, so what do you think? Let's see what it says about that. All right. Let's see.
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're doing. You're taking the pitch set A, C, E and refusing to let the traditional system automatically recenter it on A just because A happens to have a third above it. You're insisting on staying centered on E and describing the intervals as they actually sit from that point of view. From E, the intervals are simply negative E to A equals perfect 4, negative E to C equals minor 6, no third of any kind, no fifth. So the cleanest interval description is just E with P4 and M6, or E negative 4 Blint centers. The moment someone says you can't do that, you have to find the Tertian stack. They are enforcing an Aeolian, Ionian-centric rule. The only legitimate way to name a 3-note collection is to locate the root that produces a third and then stack thirds from there.
All right.
That rule privileges one modal perspective, the one whose tonic triad is tertian, and treats every other perspective as secondary or incorrect. You're rejecting that hierarchy, and I think you're right to reject it if the goal is a coordinate system that can respect any modal center equally.
Just some
The clumsy
respect.
symbol you tried,
That's all we're
EMAG
looking
a
for,
coordinate,
Anna.
T-Rex
Little
4,
frickin'
a
respect
coordinate
around
to
here.
readlevitation Veller 6 a coordinate to readlevated wait for no tantrum, feels ridiculous precisely because it is still trying to speak in the old major-minor chord vocabulary. That vocabulary was built around the assumption that a chord should have a third and a fifth. When the sonority doesn't, the language has to start inventing add this, drop that patches, which is a symptom that the language itself is the wrong tool for the job. In a more neutral coordinate language, we wouldn't need those patches. We would just say absolute positions, whatever numbering or clock system we settle on, or relative to the chosen center, E14 blooded 6, and if we want the historical translation layer, we can still note that the same pitch set is also AM in first inversion. Both descriptions can coexist. One is the lived, mode-respecting description, the other is the compatibility layer for people still reading traditional charts. So yes, I reject the forced tertian recentering with you. If the experiential center is E, Phrygian or otherwise, then the sonority is E with a fourth and a flat sixth, full stop. The fact that traditional theory wants to drag it back to A is exactly the kind of ordinal and tertian bias you've been pointing at.
That's right. That's right. Reject it like that basketball player. What's her name that points at people? Oh wait, I forgot. It's not on right now. Okay. Anyway, so then what I'm gonna do is, what I would say then is a better way to name it would be at 4 o'clock, you have the Phrygian, which is, I'm going to say, was a P, and then there's no third, so you would just say 0 for the third, and then because it's a placeholder, because I mean there's no stacking, so so there's no point for the stacking of thirds, and then I'll just measure in modal half steps, which is Phrygian's third modal half step and Phrygian's fifth modal half step. So it's a Phrygian, no modal whole steps. Then pick the one that's 3 modal half steps away, Phrygian third, and 5 modal half steps away, Phrygian fifth. So it's a P035 chord. If you want to name it with a clock convention to get the 4 in there, just because you don't know what collection we're in. Some dude's like, dude, I don't know what collection it's in. What are you talking about, man? I told you what collection we're in. Where have you been? Get your head in the game. We're at 4 o'clock. Look, it's a 4 colon. Phrygian is 3035 chord. It's a 403035 chord because 4 o'clock is the collection of notes around the key of C. 3 stands for Phrygian because it's the third Nashville number. O because there's no modal whole steps. 3, 5 are the distances and modal half steps away from nodal point 4. If you don't know how to get to those distances, you just count it on your fingers. 4, 5, 6, 7 gets you to the Locrian. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2 gets you to the Mixolydian. Therefore, it's a Lydian, Locrian, Mixolydian chord at 4 o'clock. Wait, no, that's not exactly right. What did I counted it wrong? It's 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So it's a Phrygian 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now 3. Now I got 6. Phrygian Aeolian Ionian chord. Dang it. Phrygian Aeolian Ionian. Nashville number 361 chord. But the tonic is the Phrygian because I'm not thinking of it as a minor Aeolian A minor chord right now. I'm thinking it from the perspective of the Phrygian, which, like in physics, is a perfectly legitimate, just as legitimate, I would say, as any other perspective. That's right.
Got it. You're locking the collection at 4 o'clock, C major, the white key set, and refusing to leave the E Phrygian node even though the vertical sonority doesn't contain a third above E. From that node, the 3 pitches sit at E equals nodal point itself, 1, A equals perfect fourth divided by Phrygian scale degree 4, minus C equals minor sixth divided by Phrygian scale degree black 6. There is no scale degree 3 of any kind, so the most direct coordinate name is simply 4p14 black 6 or 4k14 black 6 if you want brackets. The 0 you are putting in for the missing third is useful as an explicit flag when you want to emphasize the absence. You could write it 4p104 black 6 if the missing third is pedagogically important in that moment. Otherwise, the shorter form is cleaner. The other naming you reached for, calling it a Phrygian, Aeolian, Ionian, or Nashville 361 chord, is a secondary, interesting observation about which modal nodes those 3 pitches would be if each were treated as a tonic. It can live as an optional extra layer. These are also the 3, 6, and 1 nodes of the collection, but it shouldn't replace the primary description. Primary description stays centered on the lived root you chose, the Phrygian node. That keeps the coordinate system honest. Collection is fixed by the clock position 4. Center is declared, P divided by Phrygian node 3 of the collection. Intervals are measured from that center in ordinary scale degrees or modal steps if you prefer that language. Missing chord tones are either omitted or flagged with 0. No forced rerouting to A just because A happens to make a pretty minor triad. The Phrygian perspective is treated as fully legitimate, exactly as you want. Does 4p14 blacket 6 with optional 0 for the third feel like the right compact form, or do you want to keep playing with the modal half-step counting version a bit longer?
What did you replace the 0 with? So you said, what did you replace the 0 with? You said something's more efficient than saying it's a P035 because you replaced the 0 with like a naught or something? A blank? P035. It's coordinate system. P035. 403 not 35. 403 not 35. Blue 32. 403 not 35. 5 steps forward, 3 steps to the right, 4, you end up on 403 not 35. Okay.
No, I didn't replace the 0 with a naught or anything like that. I just switched from your modal half-step counting, P035, to ordinary Phrygian scale degrees, because those degrees are already clear and standard once you've declared the center. From the E Phrygian node, the notes sit at -1, the node itself, -4, -6, so the compact name I suggested was 4p14 City Blues. If you still want the missing third to be explicitly marked, you can keep the 0 and write 4p104 Blues 6. That's fine when you want to highlight the absence. The shorter version without the 0 is just more efficient for everyday use, because anyone who knows the Phrygian scale already understands that 1 to 4 Blues 6 has no third in it. That's the only change I made. Ordinary scale
Okay, I
degrees
see what
instead of the
you
modal
did.
half-step.
All right, I'm tired. Let's do my joke. Joke break. See what we have here. All right. See what we have, y'all. I bought a ladder. I bought a ladder designed by the International Ladder Standards Committee. They spent years studying how people actually climb, and after millions of dollars of research, they made an incredible discovery. Apparently, people only step on the same 7 rungs out of every 12 rungs. They don't use all the rungs. They only step on like the same 7 out of 12, you know? So I thought, interesting. So what did you do with that information? They said, we numbered those 7 out of 12 rungs. It's like, perfect. So the ladder now goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but there's an added rung between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 5 and 6, and 6 and 7, but people usually don't step on those, you know? And so then level 2, what happens when you get above 12 rungs of ladder? Well, it repeats the same pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but there's an additional rung between the things again. So now you're at level 2, rung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then you have the unstepped on rungs. So apparently the other 5 rungs are still there, but they're just transitional rungs, you see? So I said, why not just number all 12 of them? And they looked offended. You clearly don't understand ladder theory here. So then they published version 2. They discovered shorter people sometimes they begin to climb one rung higher. So excellent, brand new numbering system. Now yesterday's 2 is today's 1. Yesterday's 3 is today's 2. Yesterday's 1 is today's 7. Didn't I already say 1? I don't know. Nothing moved, only the instructional manual. So then they published version 3. Same people naturally reach their hands because some people like to count by their feet, you know, but if you count by your hands, then that you really should be position 1. Your hand should be position 1, you know what I mean? So now it's like, great, so what rung are my hands on? Because people want to count by their hands, and they said it's on rung 1. And I looked at the ladder, it's like, no, my hand's on like the 6th rung. It's on the 6th rung, isn't it? And they said, not anymore, we're counting from hands now. Apparently the hands get their own ladder number system, otherwise it would be unfair, it'd be feet-centric. You know what I mean? So then they published version 4. Someone sat down halfway up the ladder. They put their butt on a rung. And it's like, I thought, surely this won't change the numbering system, will it? It's like, apparently it changed everything. Now his butt is on rung 1, his feet are on rung 4, and his hands are on rung 3. So is the butt-centric naming. So it's the same ladder. You got 3 ones, different body parts. So at this point, I wasn't climbing anymore. I was attending a conference. There were experts arguing over whether today's climb should use foot edition, the hand edition, or the sitting edition. They've got a whole rung ladder coordinate or scale books at this point. The foot edition never really caught on at this particular conference. People weren't as much into it, you know. The hand edition had small but dedicated following, but the sitting edition, that one suddenly became incredibly popular. The committee insisted it was because of the ergonomics were better on that one, but I'm starting to suspect that the new it had a more to do with the new attractive ladder sitter demonstrating it in the brochure. Someone stood up and, you know what I mean, on the sitting edition. Would you demonstrate which rung we're on once again? Okay. So what if we just numbered every rung? Sure, security escort him out immediately. Apparently he'd been caught using a coordinate system. We won't have that. You've been excommunicated. Let me turn on. I'm gonna turn on my. Let's see if they could do a better job than my audio version of it. Let's see. Turn on the audio. RTO. Still amazed by the imagery. I think I still have 2 months of free, not free, but cheaper imagery. They're gonna lock me in. I'm not sure I can let it go at this point. It's too good. Musk, you need to build the data centers. Don't hurt it. Build them in the desert or something, but I can't let go of my AI images anymore. I need them. I can't live. Put the data centers in space. We have to have it. Okay. Let's see.
I bought a ladder designed by the International Ladder Standards Committee. They'd spent years studying how people actually climb.
The data is incredible. We tested every movement.
This is the gold standard for human ascent. 95.7% approval rating. 95. After millions of dollars of research, they made an incredible discovery. Apparently, people only step on the same 7 rungs out of every 12. This is revolutionary. It will change everything we know about climbing. We have to publish this immediately.
This is incredible. The funding was worth every penny.
Yes, breakthrough. I thought, interesting. So what did you do? We found a pattern. People only use the same 7 rungs out of every 12. 7 out of 12? That's incredible. Exactly. It's consistent across all data. This changes everything. We numbered those. Yes, a complete breakthrough.
We optimized every rung. Efficiency maximized.
The standard is set. The future is efficient. A new era begins. Humanity rises to new heights. Let's celebrate! Perfect. The ladder now goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But there's an added rung between 1 and 2 and 3, 5 and 6 and 6 and 7 that nobody uses.
Exactly. It optimizes the pattern for efficiency. Let's test it.
The ladder system, repeating structure at every level. Every level follows the same rule. Then level 2, repeat same pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But there's an added rung between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 5 and 6 and 7 that nobody uses. The pattern repeats again! Apparently the other 5 rungs are still there. They're just transitional rungs.
Exactly. They bridge the gaps.
Transitional rungs, brilliant! Every rung has value, even the in-betweens.
Innovation in ladderology.
No rung left behind! So, why not just number all 12? What? That's outrageous!
You can't suggest that.
Blasphemy! I'm just saying, simplify it. Simplify, it's chaos, the transitions!
The rungs have meaning. You can't.
Fine, keep your chaos. You clearly don't understand ladder theory.
What? I just asked a question.
The theory is settled science.
7 rungs, no more, no less.
Your confusion is unacceptable.
But why only 7?
Because the pattern is proven. Read the books! Ladder theory is absolute! They published version 2. We discovered shorter people sometimes begin climbing 1 rung higher. This changes everything. 1 rung higher? Let's go! Version 2. More inclusive, more flexible, more accurate.
Hooray, version 2!
Excellent! Brand new numbering system. Now yesterday's 2 is today's 1. Yesterday's 3 is today's 2. Yesterday's 1 is today's 7. Nothing moved, only the instruction manual. Whoa! Amazing! Revolutionary! The power of the manual! Excellent! And now, we publish version 3! Some people naturally reach with their hands first!
It's more inclusive and realistic.
Hands first feels natural. Version 3 is science-based. Advancing climbing for everyone! Great. So what rung are his hands on? Ah, a complex query. It depends on the context.
Our analysis shows rung 5.5, but functionally 6.
Exactly. The context matters. But which rung is he on right now? He is reaching for the optimal rung. Just tell me the number! Great. They said 1! The answer is obvious! 1!
1! The only true rung!
1! Hands first! 1? Just 1? Yes, 1! QED!
1!
No! His hands are on 6! Impossible, the rules are clear! But look! The glow is on 6!
The consensus is rung 1. It's final.
The ladder knows it's 6. Lies! The manual says 1! This is wrong! No! They said not anymore. We're counting from the hands now. Indeed! The hands get their own ladder number system. It's revolutionary! Hands lead!
Systems for maximum flexibility.
Wow, the hands get their own system? 0 consistency required because science! We did it!
Fauci
Ladder
made
theory
this
version
one.
4 is published! Sitting is a
Fauci
valid
system.
climbing position.
Rest positions are positions.
A bold new breakthrough! Time to demonstrate! Show them, son! Halfway up, perfectly stable! History is made! I thought, surely this won't change anything. Young man, it's a revolution! A revolution from sitting?
Yes, rest positions are valid.
It's official, rung 4.5 recognized. Wow, I was completely wrong. Okay, show me this theory. Ladder theory version 4, it changes everything. Wait, my butt is on 1? Exactly, hands on 3, feet on 4.
The new positional paradigm.
So my butt is on 1, feet on 4, hands on 3. Precisely, a revolution.
Science sits because it can.
Ladder theory version 3 ones, total clarity. Whoa, hands equals 1?
Yes, hands are 1.
And feet equals 1? Precisely, feet are 1. So butt equals 1 too? Yes, 3 ones, 0 confusion.
Maximum progress.
3 ones, total clarity. Whoa, hands equal. Welcome to the plenary on dynamic ladder interactions. At this point, I wasn't climbing anymore. I was attending a conference. These ladder theorists are obsessed.
Indeed. The quantum rung relativity is quite provocative.
You said it. Welcome. Feet make contact first. The foot edition is primary. Ugh, here we go again. Hands drive the climb. Control is priority with the hand edition. They're all the same thing. The butt bears the weight. Support is key with the sitting edition. Just pick one and climb already. Feet make contact first. The foot edition is primary. Ugh, here we go again. Hands drive the climb. Control is priority with the hand edition. They're all the same thing. The butt bears the weight. Support is key with the sitting edition. Just pick one and climb already. Welcome to the foot edition presentation. Our hierarchy model is clear.
Hands no, hands show, hands lead the climb.
The foot edition never really caught on. The data is solid. Please, take a paper.
Small but precise, hands on 3.
The hand edition had a small but dedicated following. Welcome to the sitting edition. That one suddenly became incredibly popular. The committee insisted it was because the ergonomics were better. Yes, sitting is superior.
I'm conquering heights while sitting.
Science proves it. Get your sitting edition today.
Sitting edition, sitting edition.
I suspected it had more to do with the attractive ladder sitting demonstrator in the brochure.
Welcome to the future of climbing. Sit into comfort and conquer.
Yeah, that doesn't lie.
Ergonomics prove it. Reduced fatigue by 68%.
Right. The demonstrator is the real selling point. What if we just numbered every rung once? What? Blasphemy, a coordinate system!
You're coming with us, now!
No, wait! It's just a simple idea!
Get him out, heretic!
But I didn't mean coordinates!
Out, no coordinates allowed!
What?
That's pretty good. I don't know. That was almost as good as the pirate one. I was better than I thought. The like text that they put in there that I didn't even put I didn't even put half the lines they said that were pretty funny. I didn't even put in the script. It's crazy.